Hey guys, we're here at Home Depot. A couple weeks ago you saw us do the 5 best lumber for carving signs from Lowe's. We're going to do the same thing with Home Depot. So follow us inside the store and we're going to check out and see what they've got available for carving signs. Alright guys, so this isn't in any particular order, but we're picking the 5 top lumber choices for making freehand carved signs. Now, one of the ones that I've been using for years is the cedar fencing. But recently, just in the last few years, they've actually added redwood fencing. Now this one I like even better than the cedar because it's full 3/4 thick, number one. It's wider, it nets out wider, and the fact that it generally has fewer knots and it carves better. I really like the redwood fencing. Now this is kind of rare. This is a brand new pallet that they just got in, which really is cool. Look at these boards. Boards just look really clear. You've got a few little knots in there and some staples and stuff. So you have to be careful, you have to be picky and choose through there. But it's really cool. As long as you clean up your mess, you can choose through there and pick out the ones you want. Now some of the notes on this stuff, the downside of this stuff in a new pallet, whether it's the cedar or the redwood, is it's wet. You can see this is probably 25% moisture, but it's no big deal because they're nice and flat, so you just want to put them on stickers and dry them out. But we're definitely going to get some of these. When you got a brand new fresh pallet like that, that's the downside, is it's wet. But other than that, there really is no downside. The price on this stuff is like less, it's a little over $5 a board, and you could easily make $100 out of this in signs. So the cedar, again, cedar fencing, I don't have anything wrong with that, but if you have the option to go redwood rather than cedar, it's thicker, it's wider, it's more substantial, and I think it carves just as well, and it looks great with a finish on it. So the fencing, the cedar fencing, redwood fencing, definitely should be on your list. We're moving on.
So next on our list is actually blue pine shiplap. Now this is something Lowe's didn't have, and they have several different sizes here, right? So you can see, like on this one, this is the shiplap, or actually this is tongue and groove, so you're gonna need to trim off the tongue and the groove, and you're gonna net about 4 inches. So if you have some smaller signs to do, this stuff carves great, and it's pretty cheap. It's $8. So if you have some signs to do that are about 4 inches, small signs, or like little address signs, or little quote signs or whatever, this stuff looks awesome, it carves really well, and it's really inexpensive. Now the bigger stuff here, this is shiplap. This stuff nets at about 6 inches. These ones are a little bit beat up, but once you sand all these markings off, this stuff is going to look beautiful with a finish on it. It carves great, and again, this is an 8-foot board for $10. So again, your profit margin is pretty stinking good. It carves really good. Again, really the only downfall is that you have to trim off the shiplap, but that's no big deal. There are some knots in here, but that's not that big a deal. It's really not. But again, board management. Now you can see they're pretty low on stock here, but once this thing's full, you're gonna have the pick of the litter. So this stuff's pretty stinking good, carves great, and it's got a good price. So your profit margin is really high. So let's move on to the next one. All right, so another good one is the milled cedar. And this stuff's actually really nice. So you have the cedar pickets and the redwood pickets, and those things work great. The nice thing about the milled cedar is that, first of all, it's thick. It's about 7/8 inches thick, and it's got a nice flat side, 3 flat sides. The back is rough, but that's no big deal. We're gonna sand the back off anyway. And another nice thing about it is there's several different sizes. So this one is 8-inch. Yeah, this one is 8 inches wide. So if you want something a little bit bigger than the fencing, but a little bit smaller than the select pine, you have nice 8-inch wide boards. You got 6-inch wide boards. Now, one of the downfalls of this stuff is you can see right here, it's got some knots in it. But again, when you use the Starbond and you fill in those knots, it's not that big a deal. but these things are going to look awesome once there's a nice spray on it, and you can make a lot of money. Now, price-wise, this board is 8 foot, right? And it's 25 bucks. But if you figure you can get 3 2-foot boards off there, sell those at 50 bucks a piece, if you're making nice stuff, made 150 bucks with a little bit of leftover for another smaller sign. So the profit margin is pretty good on this stuff, and it looks awesome. So let's move on to the next one.
Okay, another one on the list that I've been using for years and years and years is the Select Pine. Now, the downsides on the Select Pine is it's not as near as inexpensive as some of our other choices, but there's no knots. It's super clear, so you don't have an issue there. One of the downsides is it does bleed. Pine generally bleeds, so you want to definitely use sanding sealer or seal it up before you spray any black or any spray to it. But the upside is, again, it's perfectly clear, no knots to deal with whatsoever. And my go-to has always been using this stuff if I have to go more than 5 inches wide. Now, and you'll see, you may have already seen, our other choices, you might have some other choices to go a little bit wider than 5 inches. But we generally buy 1x12, and again, it's not the best price, but it does generally carve pretty well. You definitely want to seal it up as soon as you get it back to your shop. Don't wait, seal it up right away, especially the ends. With sanding sealer or anchor seal or something, seal up those ends, otherwise they might cup on you, especially with 1x12. And there are other choices. You have 1x6 and 1x4 and that kind of stuff. But anyway, guys, so Select Pine, that's a big one on our list. So we're moving on.
All right, guys, so here's another one that Lowe's didn't have, but Home Depot has. And this stuff's pretty nice. So this is basically just tongue and groove pine. And this will be the same thing, very similar to the blue stain. You're gonna net about 6 inches. The only problem with this stuff is there's a lot of real small little knots in here. I mean, it's not that big a deal. You know, something like this, if you can work your wording and your artwork around this, it would actually look really great on a sign. You just kind of have to manage where you're gonna put everything. But other than the small knots, but once you solidify them with Starbond, again, not a big deal. A little harder to carve, but they're going to look great. And so the other thing is you definitely need to put a finish on it before you lay anything out, because this stuff will bleed. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. It will bleed. So as soon as you get it home, put a finish on it and make sure that it's stacked the right way and everything. Cut it up. And you're going to have to cut the tongue and groove off again. But as far as price-wise goes, this is an 8-foot board for 12 bucks. I mean, that's pretty good. You got a really good profit margin on it. It's a nice wide sign. You know, it's a little wider than the pickets. And it carves really great, and it's going to look awesome with a finish on it. So there's some pretty good selections here at Home Depot. More than the last time I was here, that's for sure. So, hope you guys like this. We're going to wrap this thing up.
So that's it, guys. That's our top 5 sign carving supplies as far as wood goes from Home Depot. There was a lot of stuff. Some of the things were the same as Lowe's, but I like honestly, the selection here was pretty good. But again, it's always going to be different. Of your Lowe's, your Home Depot, your other box stores might be completely different than this, depending on where you're at. You know, we see different things here than we do 20 miles away over in Bullhead City, because we're in Kingman today. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. Some really good values here, really great profit margins. So check your local Home Depot and see what they've got. Maybe you've got better stuff, better selection of things that you can use. Anyway, just keep your eyes open, and remember, you know, if you're not sure about it, get a small piece, take it home, experiment with it, see what it does. If you have any questions, you can always email me, eric@makeawoodssign.com, or ryan@makeawoodssign.com. And thanks for watching, guys. We so appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Click that little bell icon, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.